Hello, YouTube. Today I thought we'd do a little bit of a different video and kind of talk about some quality of life changes that I think would be good for the game. These are changes that I've seen brought up in World Chat, in Kinship, in the Discords, community or official, just in different locations. And I thought I'd compile some that I've noticed that have been really popular and just discuss them. So to start, nice and simple, we need more wardrobe slots or cosmetic slots. I think in total you can get it's like 400 or 410 slots as a VIP player at least. I don't know what it is for premium or free to play, but there's so many cosmetics in the game, and the fact that even just the base is 30 slots, and you can only add space via LOTRO points, and it's quite normal price of almost 600. It's quite a bit. You can purchase this 10 times, but so that's what brings you up to the total of like 410 or whatever it is. But that's not enough. It's just not enough. We need more. There's tons of cosmetics in the game. There's tons of just different armor pieces, and with the fancy new bundles that they introduced for a limited time, uh, whether it's just in this with purchased with points or with real money with like this, what is it, the supporter bundles or whatever. Uh, we just need more slots. On so with that in mind, I think a good solution to that, and something else that I think would be a great change, is the collections tab. So I believe the collections tab should be account wide. So all the pets, all the emotes, all the mounts, all of this should be account wide. If you unlock a festival mount on a specific character, or you open up a random loot box and it gives you a mount, but you can't trade it to a specific character, or you just decided to you learned it on an alt by accident, well, now you should be able to just have access to that mount on every character. I've seen arguments made for, when it came to mounts at least, that reputation mounts shouldn't be account wide, and should you have to earn that on for characters individually. I just think that if the mount is in the tab, it should be account wide. Uh, so, and that includes mounts and pets, uh, baubles. I haven't done bird watching, as you can see, so I don't know how much this needs to be account wide. I don't know how the system works. So if you think it needs to be account wide or doesn't need to be account wide, please let me know in the comments. But uh, main focus being emotes, mounts, and pets. Now, the reason why I bring up the collections tab is I think a good solution to cosmetics is to just add a cosmetic tab, whether it's adding a separate one for each type of weapon, for different armor types, just armor in general, doesn't matter. I think anything that you earn in game, uh, so if I was to go to the auction house and just clicked on armor and I purchased this pair of legs, even though I can't wear it on this character, what should happen is once it's in my inventory, it should say acquired thick elven bronze leggings outfit. And then when I go into my collections tab, it then appears highlighted this grim here, and I could drag it into an outfit slot here. So I could drag the legs into here, and then boom, now I have it as an outfit. I think they should do that for every piece of gear. At some point, at the very least, just everything that's purchased from the store, or just like the specific like cosmetic options and not necessarily armor pieces, but just at least the armor that is considered a true cosmetic outfit should go into the collections tab. And while we're in the collections tab, I think an update to the mount or to the stable system needs to be considered. I think that if you've unlocked a travel point on a character, right, discovered locations, if you discover it on one character, every character should now have access to it. We're past the days where we have more time to do these kinds of things, such as, you know, unlocking all of the fast travel in Forakel. I've done this so many times. I don't want to do it anymore. It should just be account wide at this point. I even think there was a post in the Discord about the mounts. I wonder if I can find it. Oh yeah, I'll take a screenshot of it just to show that it was a dev indeed saying this in the Discord. The travel system was built for a game and in a time where the world was much smaller and the mentality of the average MMO player and the average MMO dev was very different. There are a lot of games from that era that are not particularly respectful of a player's time. And I think that's a very accurate statement. And now I think a good change would be, in respect to the player's time, would be no longer needing to discover these locations on every character once you do it once. If it's unlocked in the collections tab or window, then all your characters have access to it. I don't think we should need to even discover locations, period, anymore. Maybe you could still tie like fast travel to certain deeds, and you need to do that on a character. But once you do that on one character, it should be done. You never need to do it again. And I think that just goes in line with the being respectful of players' time. I think another one that I saw on the Discord that a lot of people liked is a sell back option when you use a currency to barter for an item. So I'm trying to think of a good example for it. It might be a little bit tricky, but essentially, let's say you're using spring leaves to barter for something and you accidentally purchase the wrong item. Well, there should be a feature where I could right click to sell it back to that barter or that vendor and get the tokens or the currency back in full value, and then be able to repurchase what I want. It sucks when you accidentally click on something that you didn't intend, or you bought something thinking it was something else, but it's not what you wanted at all, and now you can't get that currency back. So just being able to just sell it and get the currency back, you know, if you do it, you know, relatively soon. If you wait a week, obviously you can't, right? So you could have some sort of like time limit. I mean, I think when you get like fellowship tradable armor from dungeons and raids and stuff, you have like an hour before you can before it becomes permanently locked to you or your account. So even when you earn like random enhancement runes, you can't put them in your shared storage for an hour to send to an alt. You can't mail it to an alt. It can only be given to someone in your raid, or you have to use it immediately. So you could do something similar where you've purchased something, you have an hour to sell it back to get the full value. And if you don't, then you have to keep it, or you can still sell it, but you have to sell it at like half the cost kind of thing. Speaking of raids, though, there needs to be some sort of exchange system for armor when it comes to raids and dungeons. So both on the main or live servers at 150 and the legendary system, or in the legendary servers, it's all personal loot, meaning the raid can't control who gets what loot. The game decides this is the loot this specific person gets. Now, some of it you can trade, but not all of it, especially the like specific armor pieces, because you get an emblem, right? You get an emblem or a signet, and then that player who gets that emblem or signet has to go to a barter to barter for a specific piece of armor. So you could do a raid like 4 times in a month and all this, but you've only ever come out of that raid with boots. You keep getting the boot emblem or the boot signet. There's no way to get something different, and it's out of the player's control on what they get. They can't be like, oh, hey friend, I noticed you got gloves. Why don't I trade my boots for your gloves? Or you already have 6 pairs of gloves. I already have 6 pair of boots. Let me give something to someone who hasn't gotten anything in a while. Like, the player can't do that. The game determines who gets what loot, and there's no way around it. So either make emblems or signets tradable, allow for some sort of exchange system via a vendor, where I can give a vendor 2 boot emblems for 1 glove emblem or something like that, or a 1-to-1. Just something so that there's more player control on what they're getting. Because in older raids, like in Moria, for example, when it was a token that would drop, and then that token could be assigned to a specific player. In this personal loot system, yes, there's more loot can be given out to the raid in general, but a player could be only getting the same piece of armor every single time. So some sort of change needs to be added there. And staying in with raids, drop rates need to be increased for certain items. I'm not talking about gold items, right? I have, on this character, I have this ring that came from the Watcher, and I have this ring that came from the first boss in the Mirkwood raid. That kind of stuff doesn't need to be increased. It's a super rare gold item. I get that it's supposed to be rare. That's fine. But stuff like the Bracelet of the Tower, or those who are on the legendary servers and just finished Moria. We have Bracelet of the Moon. There was that Halls of Crafting neck, or the Forge's neck. I know there's tons of other gear on the current 150 raid that isn't gold items, it's more teal items. These teal items need an increased drop rate. I know on the legendary servers, they increased the drop rate, but then for whatever reason, they felt like it was too high. So then they nerfed the drop rate to like slightly, like maybe like a 1% higher chance to what it used to be. Maybe it wasn't exactly 1%, but like it felt insignificant at that point. Players would run Halls of Crafting for a neck, or forges for their neck 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, and see it never drop, or maybe drop once. Like, in 100 runs, you see 1 neck. That's not fun. And of course, because you're competing with other people and everybody wants that neck, right? It's not fun. And I know they have the same problems on the 150 servers and the 150 raids. You shouldn't need to make loot that difficult to get, because it just kind of it pushes people away from the raid, and they don't want to do it anymore. Because, like, well, what's the point? I have all my armor, maybe if I was lucky enough for the game to give me the right emblems or signets, but now I also can't really farm that more rare or stronger loot because it just has such a low drop rate. Like, there's just no point, and it pushes people away from the game and away from raiding, and they either just come back at a later expansion, or they just go play something else, and now no one wants to run dungeons or raids anymore. So loot needs to be changed, both in the armor and emblems, being able to trade maybe, or adding a barter system, and in the drop rate of the other loot. Favored reputation was something that was great. So moving to something that was really great that was added to the game was bringing this favored reputation system to all factions, or maybe not quite all factions just yet, but close. I think it needs a bit more of a UI fix into fully, so that players can kind of fully understand what's happening. This is highlighted because I have a character that has a higher reputation than this character, so now this character will earn favored reputation, or earn that reputation boost up to a certain point, but I don't know what that point is. Is it up to friend? Is it up to ally? Is it up to kindred? I don't know, because I don't remember off the top of my head what that other character's reputation level is. On top of that, I think this system needs to be account-wide, like truly account-wide. Right now it's server-wide, but it should be account-wide. And even the description that was in the post when this was announced or released, it did actually read, earn kindred reputation on one character, and all other characters will earn a boost for that reputation up to kindred. And those were the words that were said in this post. And to me, that tells me they intended it to be account-wide, but maybe it's not working that way right now. I'm not sure. Or they need to change the wording of the post and make it so that it specifies server-wide. But regardless, I think it should be account-wide. I know that could cause some issues with legendary servers, and legendary servers are meant to be like a fresh start, and you're redoing things with a twist. And I kind of get that, so we'll accept that it maybe doesn't need to affect legendary servers. But I still think it should. Regardless, if you remove legendary servers out of the equation, the favored reputation system should absolutely be account-wide. If you were to remove legendary servers out of the equation, I think that should happen. Moving on to crafting, I think they did talk about this and then said that they weren't able to do it, but it's in relation to the tracking skills, right? So if you have multiple tracking professions, I have prospector and forester, so I can track wood and I can track ore. These two buttons should be combined. I should be able to hit one button, one toggle skill, and it tracks all of my gathering professions. So that would be ore, wood, scholar mats, and then crops. Like you can track like strawberries, like, I don't know, taters and stuff like that for farming and for dyes. All of those should be, if you have 3, those 3 should be combined into one toggle skill. If you have 2, it should be combined into one toggle skill. I know they said that it was complicated with the coding, I guess, apparently, and they weren't able to do it. I think it should be revisited. LOTRO is the only MMO I've played where I can't track multiple professions or multiple crafting nodes at the same time. So I think that should be looked at again. Staying with crafting, I really like that they did this in Umbar, where in Umbar you didn't need all of the previous tiers to start Umbar crafting. You could just learn Umbar crafting. I like that change. I think that should now be applied to everything. Starting on a fresh server, your first character, or on a legendary server kind of thing, the progression makes a little bit more sense. But on the main servers, as a new player, it feels a little bit weird in that you're going to level, or you're gonna out level the crafting tier really, really fast. So apprentice and journeyman are okay, experts fine, and then as you start getting higher and higher, you start to out level the crafting really quickly. So the system should be changed in that if I'm in Rohan, which is the like if I'm in East Rohan, I should be able to just mine Rohan ore right away. I shouldn't need to get all the previous tiers to do it. If I want to just start farming ore in Gundabad, let me. Just let me do it and go back and farm later if I want to. Because needing to complete a tier and master a tier just doesn't feel great when you're leveling so fast these days. Now onto something a little bit bigger, and if I rant or vent a little bit too much or get off topic or go on tangents like I am right now, I apologize. This is a big one, and it's not as simple as just, hey, I recommend this change, because it's a little bit more complicated than that. So the first one is legendary items. Legendary items need some kind of a rework. The biggest issue being needing to replace traceries constantly and then refarming them not just on one character, but on every character you have. I'll post a little screenshot here of a little picture that someone on the Discord shared just to kind of showcase how it works. But basically, why the system works on legendary servers and nowhere else is because of the amount of levels that you get to keep your traceries. So from level 45 or at level 45 or at level 50, you enter Moria for the first time, you get taught about the legendary system, you can the legacies you get at level 50, you get to keep until level 95. Minimum level to use it is 45, so 45 to 95, I guess. So that's 50 levels. Everything you earn in Moria, in Mirkwood, in Isengard, in both Rohans, everything you earn up before you go to Gondor, you get to keep. And that feels really good. I don't have to stress about relearning or re-earning a legacy or my weapon being useless because I went one level over the previous level cap. I get to keep and work towards my weapons for 50 levels. And that also makes it easier for players to use multiple builds. I could start farming for as a lore master a blue spec. I have my red DPS, I have my yellow debuffs. Now if I wanted to, because I have all of this time and there's no real rush, I can now start earning a different spec. So I know that would be helpful for players that DPS, heal, and tank, where they need to earn and acquire multiple different legendary weapons for their different specs. Because this just gets and then it gets even more complicated and frustrating when you add in alt characters. You want to start working on an alt. Well, right now on the legendary servers, I have 50 levels to do that for alts. That's fine. I have so much time in the world. And I can stockpile stuff, right? So like if I go into my vault, I have stuff stockpiled for my lore master when I'm ready. I can start stockpiling stuff for alts when I'm ready. Like there's just, that feels really good. But as the game progresses, it gets worse and worse. So 50 levels and then 19 levels, 86 to 105. So yes, you can keep the stuff till 95, but then at 96, your weapon and class item becomes useless. So now it has now your weapon does literally nothing, and you've lost all of this damage, and now you have to refarm it at 96. But your options at 96 are to purchase traceries that are at the 86 to 105 level range, right? So if I'm level 96, I can't purchase the 101s yet, so I have to purchase the 86 ones. But the 86 ones run out at 105, but I'm level 96 now. So now I only get to keep this for what, 9 levels? I mean, yes, I guess while I'm at 95, I could be farming and stockpiling these new traceries, but then I have to repeat that after, when I hit, sure, I could hit 105, but I just have to do it again at 101 for new traceries that have to last me to 115. And the cycle just repeats. 101, 106, 116, 121. Why is that such a small level difference? 121, 131, 141. That's just, now that we're 10, 10, 10. Yes, these 141s will last me till 160, but we're already level 150. So the next level cap increase with the next expansion, okay, I can keep all of that, but then at 161, my weapons are useless again. So there needs to be some sort of change in the system. Another solution would be to just make the level groups larger. So, because right now, right, on legendary servers, we get to keep our weapons essentially for 50 levels. Keep that the same, right? The middle levels right now, you have to change them. You have to change them at most every 14 levels. So combine those. Do 50 and 50 and 30 or something like that, right? 45 to 95, 50. Do 85 to, or 86 to 150. And now you're looking at like 50, you're looking at 80 levels. So if you wanted to split that into 40 and 40, sure. But the numbers don't matter. The idea is that we're keeping the traceries for longer so we don't have to replace them. Especially for newer players who are just trying to play through the game just to reach endgame, they have no idea how this system works, and it's super complicated to them all of a sudden. So I feel like we need to remove the traceries, needing to replace them all the time, or at least change it so that we don't lose the power behind them after we go one level above the previous level cap. If they wanted to keep the system and wanted to give something for the players to work towards every expansion and player retention and all that stuff, fine, but respect the players' time and give us more sources for ancient script so that we can actually barter for these new traceries a little bit quicker. We're sticking with the game. We're sticking with the expansion. We're taking the time to refarm everything that we've already done 5+ times already. Give us a faster way to earn this so that if we are doing it every expansion, it's not as painful. So give us more sources, increase the amount of ancient script we get from current sources. Why is it that these boxes that we get, right? Okay, I have 2 boxes. Am I lucky? No, I'm not lucky. So guess what? 50 ancient script. Woohoo. 50 ancient script. Woohoo. Okay, so even if I open up 10 boxes, I'm only getting 500 ancient script. That's 500? Is that even enough to buy... That's not even enough to purchase a purple heraldry, right? And at this point in the game, I'm trying to acquire like blues, and that's not even half the cost of a blue. Nowhere near half the cost. It's 1/4 the cost of a gold, right? If we go to class traceries, the costs are a little bit different. So if I go to Nature's Fury, right? Okay, so 500 will give me a purple. Okay, but 500 doesn't get me a blue. So I feel like the cost needs to go up, or the reward needs to go up a little bit more. I know you have a chance to get like 200 from a box, but I've seen that maybe I'll say that like once in every like 50 boxes. So we need more sources. I know in the legendary servers you can turn in the dungeon tokens, right? So or the medallions. So I have medallions of Dol Guldur that I can turn in for ancient script. But again, it's like 30 to 50 ancient script, so it's not even that much. I guess it's still more. It's better than nothing, right? But more sources would make the grind better and more enjoyable for the players. The other thing that they could do, and I think they should do this in addition to adding more ancient script sources, is the tracery boxes should not be random, right? So there's like the sealed tracery, right? Contains a tracery that can be engraved onto a legendary weapon. It's a blue one. This shouldn't give me a random tracery. This should give me a box that allows me to choose which tracery I want. Or at the very least, it should match the current, when I open it, it should match the current spec I'm in. So if I want a yellow tracery as a lore master, let me switch to yellow, then open the box, and the box will give me something random, but at least it's yellow. It's tied to like the yellow trait line. I think it would just be easier just to make it so that you can pick and choose whatever you want from the box, and then add boxes. Add a heraldry specific box, add a word of craft specific box, add a word of power specific box, so that it's not just maybe you'll get a class tracery, maybe you won't. Add different boxes for the reward track that you can earn. Add different boxes for as loot rewards in raids and dungeons, so that you can pick what you want, and so that when you're re-earning everything every expansion, it's not as painful and it's not as frustrating. Because what's happening with the player base is that a new expansion comes out, we have to relearn or re-earn all of our traceries again, and on top of that, we don't have control of what we're actually acquiring. I also don't understand the need for these tokens. I don't want these blue tokens. I don't want these gold tokens. Just remove them. They're like, it's an extra thing that you have to earn, and then, or you get one of these, but then you're sitting there like, oh well, now I need 1,500 ancient script, or 2,000, or whatever it is, depending on the tracery that it is, and that's just adds another layer of frustration and disappointment that just doesn't need to exist. So let's respect the player's time and make it more enjoyable to earn traceries. All right, and then the next and final big one that I wanted to talk about is the virtue system. The virtue system needs a massive, massive rework of some kind. This has been talked a lot, actually, on the Discord. It's been brought up by multiple different people, bringing up different issues with it. To start, you can complete every single deed in the entire game and still be, I think it's like 1.2 or 1.3 million virtue experience short from maxing out every single virtue at level 94. Does every single player need every single virtue maxed out at 94 for all the different passives? No. I'm not saying you do. But the problem lies in the fact that you complete every single deed in the entire game across every single zone, and you don't get the reward of every deed or every virtue maxed out? Why is that a thing? That blows my mind. The players that take the time to complete every single deed aren't rewarded with all of their traits being maxed out. Why is it that this deed in the Lone Lands that requires me to look at 2 locations that are literally right next to each other, why does that deed give me 2,000 virtue experience? But a deed in the in Evendim that is required for the exploration deeds, right? Explorer of Evendim deed done. There is a deed here. Where is it? Markers of the Sunken City. I have to go around and kill random enemies to wait for a drop, or go discover 3 different points. Why does this deed reward me nothing? This deed is, I'm not saying it's hard, but it's harder than the Lone Lands deed of going to 2 locations right next to each other. That place gives me 2,000 virtue experience, but this deed, nothing. Why is that? There's no logic behind it. I don't understand. So there's just not enough virtue experience being given out to the player to even max everything out. And on top of that, why is it that going from rank 1 to rank 2, rank 2 to rank 3, and I think it goes up that way to until rank 20? When there's 94 levels, why is it 1,000 virtue experience per level? And then it gets to a point where even completing a deed, I think it's after level 90 for a virtue, completing a deed won't even give you a full level. You need to complete 2 deeds to get a level. And that's where another problem lies. And then on top of that, why isn't there class deeds haven't had any value since they changed how class trait points worked? Why not add virtues to this? Add virtue experience here. Yes, we get LOTRO points, but add virtue experience here. Add 2,000 per virtue per class deed, and then for these tiered ones or meta ones, add 4,000. Skirmish deeds. Why doesn't this have virtue experience tied to it? Make skirmishes have some more value again. Oh, that one does. Doom. Why does Doom give you virtue experience but nothing else? Why is that? I don't know. That seems weird to me. Instance deeds. Instance deeds don't give you anything. They give you medallions. Sometimes you get reputation and a title. That one gives me virtue experience. I guess it's because it's killing something. But completing the dungeon, or completing the whole dungeon deed or raid deed, doesn't give you anything, right? Reputation deeds, social deeds, right? They don't give you anything. Why not? They should give us virtue experience as well. If you added virtue experience to all tiers of reputation, to class deeds, to social deeds, to skirmish deeds and instance deeds, I guarantee there'd be more than enough virtue experience to max out every virtue at least for 94 at that point. But so from the community, I've gathered. I'll take a screenshot and just so you can read each point. But these are the different changes that people have suggested to fix this reputation or to fix this virtue issue. Because the issue being, 1, completing every deed doesn't give you every virtue, doesn't get every virtue maxed out, and 2, doing that on multiple characters is just a pain. Even if it's just to do 5 virtues on a character is still it feels bad when you've done every single deed on one character. Now I have to do like some of that work again on another character. It's not fun. So here's are the proposed changes. Account-wide virtues would solve this very easily. Virtues on alts are earned at an increased rate either after virtue is maxed on a main or earned at an increased rate up to a certain level. So for example, if the level cap is 140 and the virtue cap is, I think it's 90 or 92 at that point, then alts will earn a bonus amount of reputation or a bonus amount of virtue experience up to 90 or 92, and then after that point they earn virtue experience at the normal rate. But when the level cap goes from 150 to 160, then 90 to 92 or 92 to 94, because that's what the virtues cap was at 150, now they earn virtues again at an increased rate. Add virtue experience to reputation deeds and class deeds to fill the gap of completing every deed, not actually maxing out virtues. We already discussed that. Add some sort of coin that can be earned via daily or weeklies that you can send to alts in addition to the normal virtue experience you earn from dailies, allowing for both mains and alts to earn virtue experience simultaneously, right? So you complete your 45 missions weekly or whatever, you earn your 2000 virtue experience, but then you also get a coin or that store item that you send to an alt, and now that alt can consume it and just get 2000 virtue experience. Rework virtue reward values to be more in line with the growth of virtue experience required. So why is everything 2k to 4k and some 1k? Why is that the same across the board? Let's give some other deeds 5 to 10k, right? And that'll help fix that gap of completing every deed doesn't max everything. Have virtues increased by 1 level. Have virtue levels increased by 1 level every 2 to 5 character levels, so that now you don't need to do deeds. You're earning virtue levels as you level up your character, and then, but say that stops once every virtue is at like level 50 or level 60. Now you go back and do deeds where you want, deeds that you find are fun or enjoyable, aren't as hard or frustrating, and then you can use those deeds to get up to 92 or 94. Add virtue experience to mob killing. Even if it's just 1. Every single mob you kill in the game from level 1 to level 150 should give you 1 virtue experience. Now you can go and play the game however you want and still earn virtue experience. Even if it's just something minor, it's something that's continuously happening, and it's something you're doing while leveling, it's something you're doing while raiding. You're always earning something. I think that would be a great fix. You could add 50 to 100 virtue experience per quest completion, right? Is it angles in Rivendell, right? The angle quests here give you virtue experience. Why not every other quest? Just add 50 to 100 to every single quest in the game. Virtue experience earned past a cap should be kept instead of being wasted to allow you to help out alts more. Or so if I'm leveling wit, right, I'm earning wit because I have it selected, but it's already at cap. Rather than the virtue experience being divided evenly among the lowest level, so that would be some would go into mercy and then innocence, so that both of those would be rank 2, and then it would share it with zeal, so then the rest of it would be split evenly among the 3 after that point. Have that virtue experience be stored and then I could spend it through some sort of virtue tab and say on this, I go to that alt and then I click the virtue, and then I can just spend and level up the virtue that way. This also brought up another concern of how virtue experience is given out by the game. So how it works is virtue experience will always go to the 5 virtues that you have selected. Or slotted. I shouldn't say selected, slotted. If this one is capped, even if you, well, unless you have something earning, but let's say justice is capped here, and I don't have, or justice is capped, but I still have it as earning, and I haven't clicked it on another one. Since justice is capped, the game will give the virtue experience to honor, and then to fortitude, and then fidelity, and then to loyalty. It goes in the order that it's slotted. After that point, then virtue experience goes to whatever you have selected as earning. So in this scenario, if I had these virtues slotted and then I have wit as earning, then virtue experience will go into earning until it reaches cap. When it reaches cap, all other virtue experience is then automatically given out to anything that is not slotted evenly. Right? So if everything was level 1 except for these 5 virtues, the 2000 virtue experience would be divided evenly among all of the other virtues. I don't think the game should decide where the virtues go, because maybe I'm spending some time I'm spending, 4 hours doing a whole bunch of deeds, and then I forget to keep earning new ones. Or like let's say wisdom was just at 31 out of 32, and to hit 32 I only need 263 virtue experience, but a deed gives me 2000. I would want that 263, but then the remaining value of the virtue completion experience, I want that to go to a specific one. But I can't tell the game to do that unless I have everything slotted up top. But if it's something I can't slot, like let's say I wanted to level patience for whatever reason, I can't tell the game, give me 263 virtue experience and wisdom and put the rest into patience, if something else was also level 0. I mean, in this scenario, it technically will, I guess, because it's the lowest level, but it won't put all of that remaining virtue experience into patience. It will just put some of it into patience until patience is the exact same level as another virtue. So I want control of where that extra remaining virtue experience goes when I complete a deed. Other things to consider or change. Reward Slayer deed boosts on alts for completing a Slayer deed that a main has completed to aid with future deed completion. So if I've killed goblins in Erod Luin on my main, and then I do the same thing on my alt still gets the virtue experience for killing the goblins, but my alt now also gains 1 times 2 Slayer deed to now make it so that it's easier to complete a future Slayer deed, whether it's on a main or an alt, whatever it may be. So it just makes the grind on another character just that much faster. Reduce the total number of required kills to complete Slayer deeds in normal zones. Killing over 200 enemies total for 1 deed is tedious and not fun gameplay. There is some deeds out there where, so as you know, Slayer deeds, right? You have the 100 or 20 and then 40, or 80, 160, 100, then 200. There's some that are 200 and 400. And on top of that, the 200 kills won't give you virtue experience, right? The first part of a Slayer deed doesn't give you virtue experience. Virtue experience is only tied to the second Slayer deed. So one, either both deeds should give you virtue experience, or two, reduce the amount of enemies. Why do I need to kill 600 enemies total to get 2,000 virtue experience? Reduce that number or make the reward much greater. 600 should give me 10,000 virtue experience, not 2,000. So I think the number should be reduced, and I think it should be reduced down to even just one deed. So take the total number. So for, let's say, Erdluin wolves, you need to kill 20 or 30 and then 60. So 30 plus 60 is 90. Divide that in half is 45. So now you only need to kill 45 wolves total. Boom, Slayer deed done. Here's your 2,000 virtue experience. You don't have to do two different deeds, and the deed that you are doing is rewarding you with virtue experience. And you don't have to kill as many enemies. Maybe if you don't want to do this for new zones as they come out, because they want players to go take the time to farm the new deeds, fine. But I say anything Gundabad and sooner should have all of their Slayer deeds reduced drastically. They did this back in the day. I think it was during... Was it Rohan that they did it? Where, as an example, Erdluin. Hendrivul Slayer, you now only have to kill 20 and then have to kill 40. This used to be a 30-60 deed, but people complained and said that, killing that many birds around the cave, especially when it's the only location, and it's also a quest location. I guess you can technically find some around the docks, but regardless, the only places to kill the birds was around a questing location, and higher level players kept taking the kills from lower level players who are just trying to quest. And on top of that, they're there for a long time because they have to kill so many. It was reduced. There's a bunch that were reduced. Trolls in the Troll Shaws, I believe, was also reduced. It was reduced to an 80-160. It used to be a 100-200 deed. So I think that treatment needs to happen again, and it need to further reduce these numbers. But it also needs to be done to basically, I would argue, Gundabad and earlier, right? So don't touch Umbar just yet because it just came out. But Gundabad and everything else before it, reduce those Slayer deeds. So an argument that was brought up is the reason why players feel the need to complete every single deed for that tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 content or higher, is because virtues have the passive bonus, right? Completing everything at 94, it's a lot of morale. It's a lot. And that matters at those higher difficulty tiers. Free mastery is a massive difference because now it means that you can slot even more morale or more crit or something like that on armor because you're getting that mastery from another source. So if you removed the passive bonus from virtues, it would completely negate all of this, and there would be no need to max out every virtue. It would just remove the need. So that could be a very easy solution. Remove the passive. Now there's people will not feel the need to complete every deed anymore. But I think you would want to encourage people to do that. So that's why there was these other options. Um, go back to 1 deed equals 1 virtue level, complete 94 deeds, and now 1 virtue is maxed. So there's tons of deeds in the game. And this is how the old virtue system worked before it was changed way back in the day. Where when you completed 1 deed, you would get a virtue, your one specific virtue would go up. Back at that day, deeds were assigned to specific virtues. So if you needed like wisdom or idealism or honesty, you needed to, most of those were tied to discovery deeds, where things like valor and zeal and determination and stuff were more tied to slayer deeds. So might and agility based classes had to kill more things, where will based classes needed to just discover more things, which was a cool concept. But regardless, completing 1 deed increased the level by 1. That was it. Some even increased your virtue level twice, which was also really nice. So I think they should go back to that, right? There's so many deeds in the game now that I think if you made it so that 1 deed, 1/2 of a Slayer deed, and then the second half of a Slayer deed, each of those gave you 1 virtue level, and you did that for every single deed in the game, you could easily max out all your virtues. And then another solution that people have brought up multiple times that I've seen in the Discords: allow for a virtue experience reset, so we can at least spend the points where we want. Because that kind of goes back to the game determining itself where to spend the virtue points, where the virtue experience goes. So allow us to just do a reset, and then we can pick where we want. That would be another solution. So that was a lot. I really tried to gather a lot of people's points of view and different perspectives and different ideas, and showcase them all. I'll again just make sure I post a screenshot of it all, so that if you don't want to listen to my rant, you can at least just see the full bullet point form of people's suggestions for virtues on what should be done. But this system needs a massive change. The virtue system is just a pain for new players and alts. The legendary system is a pain for new players and alts. So those are just some changes that I've seen that I thought would be fun to put in a video. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If there's something else that you think should be added, or some quality of life thing that needs to be improved, leave it in the comments. Have a good discussion. I'm open to having discussions about this in the channel, in the Discords. A solution, though, is never, well, I had to experience it a certain way, so everyone else should. That's not helpful to the discussion. I see that a lot, and that's living in the past. That would be like saying, "Oh, I had to level to 50 back in the day by I only had access to Erdluin the Shire, or I didn't get use Forakel or Evendim, or a revamped Misty Mountains. I didn't get to use Yonder Shire, Swanfleet, right? I only had specific zones to use to level. So why does everyone else get to do that, right? Like, that's the whole point of quality of life changes, is to make it more enjoyable for new players and for yourself when you make other characters. So the whole I had to do it so everyone else has to suffer is not valid. It's not helpful in the conversation. So if that's your point of view, I would kindly just ask you to just not comment or not contribute, because it's not helpful. But if there is something that you want to bring up, or you do have an argument of why something should stay the way it is, I'm open to hearing it. There's nothing wrong with having a discussion around that kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.